with a divorce and learning now that the family unit that I thought I had, now there's an outsider. Have you ever had an outsider come in? Have you ever had someone come into your life that maybe something uncontrollably happened and you didn't ask for it, but you just had to take it? That was my life too. And I remember I had to take this. I had to swallow this most terrible, bad tasting spoonful. And so going through that part of my family, there was how God's blessed this older brother because he was different. He spoke differently, try to run our own direction. It doesn't work out very well in life when we try to do that, because if we have God's Spirit within us, it wars against our flesh, is what Scripture tells us. And I had a warring going on in my flesh. And God brought me to this point of, it was actually a youth leader. His name was Eric Wolf. He was head of Student Venture. And this is when I'm now 16 years old. Now, music has always been a great part of my life. At 5 years old, I was, my brother saved up, out of the Sears Roebuck catalog, right? Man, I'm really going back, okay? Hang on. But the green stamps, remember those? And you save up and then you can buy something. Too bad we can't do that anymore. But my brother saved up all the stamps and bought me my first drum set. And it's a little silver, Tupperware can looking drum set. And I just bang away in the corner. I would make guitars out of shoe boxes and rubber bands, anything I put my hand on, keyboards, pianos, whatever. Music was my second refuge, I'd say, because nature was the first one, just experiencing God everywhere that I walked. And still today, music was just secondary. But music is such a beautiful gift that God gives. Anyway, by going through the rest of my life and the tragedy, the events that have happened, I would always resort to music. I remember even my dad would play everything from Miles Davis to Stevie Wonder, Chuck Mangione, Blind Lemon, Muddy Waters. All these greats, So I learned music there. My brother was, Styx, AC/DC, Boston. My sister was Barry Manilow. God, did it have to be Barry Manilow? Why couldn't you pick something? She couldn't have picked something better, I wish I could have prayed for her back then, but I just didn't have the words. The Spirit had to utter words for me, right? So through all of that, and going through all this music, 16, my student leader called me out and said, "Branon, would you like to lead worship for us?" And I'm thinking, there's not a thing called leading worship back then. This is like in the, late 80s at this time. And we didn't have a thing called leading worship. It just didn't exist. It was more like you play guitar and, Dave, so can you get up and play for the church? There's an offering, so can you play music? And then 10 years later, he's the worship leader. That's how it happens. So that's how it happened for me, but I didn't know it. So I'm playing for Student Venture, but still there's all this damage that's in my life. And yeah, I've been through counselor after counselor with family, but they just weren't really good counselors that really brought the Scripture and brought the tragic events and brought truth to it. I really believe that's where you find healing, is when you can look into the face and stare in the face of the enemy and say, no, you haven't defeated me. God's defeated you. And it's not because of some supernatural thing that happens. It's really about going deep into who you are and allowing the robes of Jesus to clothe you. Have you ever came to that point in your life where you just asked God to just clothe you in his robes? And did you know that in those same robes, when you think that maybe I can't be perfect, I don't have it all together, but those robes are also wet with his blood. It's the perfection of his love that clothes us. I finally experienced that. As I went in through high school and being mentored by my youth leader, then he said, "Branon, this is the second biggest question, I know you're a believer, but have you really, really given your whole life and all to let God navigate you through every bit of it?" And I just said, no, I just thought that being a good Christian was just going to church and studying Scripture. And he said, no, that's just a good faker. It's really about stepping into life daily with God. It doesn't mean being hokey. It's not about going nuts. Well, some people go nuts. That's okay, I guess. But is your life really rooted in Scripture? And it doesn't need to be perfect. We're all on this journey. And have our lives turned out to be perfect as it is? No. The journey behind us has been the most rocky. And maybe you're going through a time right now where it's probably the most rockiest. I know for me, I was just getting there. So at that point, God called me into ministry. God called me to do music for the church. I still had no idea what that was because I love teaching. So at that point, I played piano, guitar, drums, vocals. I did all that stuff. I taught for school districts. I taught in college when I did my degree. But I had a terrible car accident that happened. And this car accident seriously injured me, which prevented me from going to Boston to studying at Berklee School of Music for a 4-year scholarship. Is what they gave me. I had to finish that up in Houston. So in Houston, I went to Moore School of Music, which is a conservatory of University of Houston. So I finished my composition degree there with voice and piano. And then I went on to do my master's of MDiv in theology and worship over in Southern California. And also I was trained by Maranatha Music, Integrity Music, and all these other great people that walk the face of the earth, in my opinion. And came back with all this knowledge. So I've done everything from orchestral, and I know I may not look it, but everything from conducting symphonies, choir, composing string quartets, quintets, brass quintets, piano sonatas, you name it, to jazz bands. We did Miles Davis stuff. We did Cole Porter, Coltrane. We did all that stuff, all the way up to my brother's, awesome rock record collection. And I did, studio time and all that. But out of all that music, I knew that God was driving me home somewhere. And in that was where I found that God was calling me to be a pastor of worship. And by doing that along the way, God was bringing different points in my life by great friends and great people of the faith, men of the faith, who knew Scripture in and out, but who also knew a lot about the human makeup, who understand things that what they've gone through, like I did. And they were able to piece things together for me in such a way that made complete sense. I'm here to tell you that what God spoke into my heart and what he still speaks to me today is that there is nothing like his healing. It's very easy for us to think about, well, but I don't have problems like that person. Or I'm good, I'm a good Christian, I do this or that. How arrogant. Really, how arrogant that is for us to think, well, I don't have troubles like that in my life. We've all said that. I've said that. But how true it is to say, you know what? That did happen to me. I don't like it. I'm not proud of it. But I know that God himself